Hello there, and welcome to the Dreadful Dollhouse. My name is Jazz, and this is a brand new channel where we'll be covering things like true crime, unsolved mysteries, conspiracy theories, scary true stories, and pretty much anything else falling under the same general dark category. If you enjoy that kind of thing and would like to keep being suggested in my content, please make sure to like and subscribe. Now that that mini spiel is over with, let's get into the video. Today, we're going to be going over the case of Erica Green, aka the Precious Doe. I'd like to quickly go over some trigger warnings just in case there's anything I'm about to talk about that you might not want to listen to right now. This case is quite a dark one with themes of child abuse, sexual assault, and the unfortunate brutal murder of a child. If you do decide to click off of this video, I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope we can see you next time. On April 28, 2001, the body of a young girl was found near Hibbs Park in Kansas City, Missouri, during a completely unrelated search of the area. A local man had called police, worried about an elderly friend of his that seemed to have wandered off and wasn't responding to phone calls, messages, etc. After searching around in some general wooded areas nearby the park for a short time, police were notified that the elderly friend had thankfully been found safe and sound. Now that they had called off the search, they started to walk back to their cars when they spotted something on the ground. Sadly, upon closer inspection, they realized that what they had spotted was the naked, decapitated body of a small child. A toddler, actually. Just a few days later, on May 1st, 2001, after some more searching of the area that the body was found, her head was also found, only about 200 yards away, wrapped in a black trash bag. Her body was of course sent in for an autopsy, and it was found that she was an African-American female, around 3 to 6 years old, though this was later narrowed down to 3 to 4 years, and that her body had only been in the woods for about 3 to 4 days before discovery. They also found that while her body was discovered in the woods, her body had been transported there from elsewhere, so she had not been killed in the woods, well, specifically where she was found. During this autopsy, it was also made quite clear that in the events leading up to her death, it, they weren't good. The poor girl unfortunately did not have an easy ending to her short life. Uh, it was actually pretty bad. Found all over her body was horrible bruising, seemingly made by severe kicks, along with the use of a foreign object, which ended up being proven to be an ashtray that was also found during their search very close to her body. Nothing was able to progress, and it didn't until a few years later on April 30th, 2005. A little over 4 years since her body was discovered. Isn't that crazy? That's absolutely crazy to me. Anyway, April 30th, 2005, the case finally had a new lead. The police received a phone call from a man in Oklahoma that identified himself as Thurman McIntosh, and he called in because he knew that his grandson, Harrell Johnson, was one of the Precious Doe's killers. He told investigators that Harrell Johnson had a wife called Michelle Johnson that back in 2001 had a beautiful 3-year-old daughter named Erica Michelle Marie Green that one day seemed to just vanish. A few days later, Thurman was watching the news when he heard about the young African-American girl that was found in the woods and almost immediately began to question Harrell and Michelle, concerned that the little girl could be Erica. Eventually, Harrell confessed that the body in the woods was Erica, but said that she had died in some tragic freak accident. Of course, this was a lie, since we already know that Erica had been brutally beaten leading up to her death. But with this, Thurman decided to just leave it alone. We don't really know if he actually believed Harrell or not, since I guess it is possible that he was extremely gullible and naive, but I digress. He kept the secret for 4 entire years. Eventually, as a man who was getting up in age and wasn't having the best health lately, he decided that he could not die and let the secret die with him. He decided that Erica, this sweet baby girl, deserved a name being put to her face, a name being etched on her gravestone, even if it meant giving up his grandson and his wife. After the phone call took place, Thurman apparently handed over a photo of Erica before her death to the police, along with hair samples from her and her mother, Michelle. This part confuses me a bit, and I'm not sure if it's true, given it's a bit weird he would have access to the hair samples for any reason, but moving on. The police were convinced, even without the samples he might or might not have given them, that Thurman was indeed telling the truth anyway, given he knew specific details about the case that only the killer or somebody related to the killer would have known, information that they had not shared to the public. Because of this, they decided to label Harrell and Michelle Johnson as prime suspects in the case and take them in for questioning. At this time, they were actually both already in jail in Oklahoma for completely unrelated charges, so it made it pretty easy to find them at least. I'm not completely sure what they were convicted for specifically this time around, since they both had pretty lengthy criminal records around. Like, they they had quite a history, each of them. Michelle had a history of forgery and theft, and Harrell had a history of things like assault with a deadly weapon and possession of a sawed-off shotgun. Real peaches, aren't they? Not long into questioning, Michelle confessed that the precious doe was indeed her daughter, Erica Green, and not only that, but that she had been murdered by her stepfather, none other than her husband, Harrell Johnson. Together, they decided to try and cover it up. How you can be aware of your husband or boyfriend at the time murdering your child and help him, instead of at the very least coming forward to police, is beyond me. But I'll be getting into that a bit more in a second. Anyway, that was that. The precious doe had been identified. Erica Green was one of 8 children. I'm not sure who her father was or who the fathers of any Michelle's children were for that matter, but I do know that Erica was born while her mother Michelle was serving one of her many prison sentences and was put into foster care with a lovely woman named Betty Brown, but was returned to Michelle's care once she was released. At this time, Michelle was already with Harrell Johnson, but I'm not too sure of the exact time they started dating. All I know about their relationship is that Michelle met Harrell when she was working as a prostitute. Harrell was one of her regular customers, and at some point they ended up starting a romantic relationship. They were together for quite a while, but actually did not end up getting married until a year after the murder of Erica Green. We also know that Harrell was not the biological father of Erica, but her stepfather. That's about it, though. Now that all of those details are out of the way, let's get into the unfortunate string of events leading up to Erica's body being found in the woods that day. It was Erica's bedtime, and her mother, Michelle Johnson, had put her to bed as usual before going back to her bedroom and getting ready for a bath. While Michelle was getting ready for her bath, Erica realized that she couldn't sleep and got up, walking up to her mother's room. If you have children or know literally anything about children, you know that this is a pretty common occurrence. Sometimes a child just can't sleep, and all they want is a bit of extra attention from their parents, especially when they're around Erica's age. When Michelle noticed Erica in her room, she promptly set her back to her bed, which Erica gladly did. Pretty normal night so far. With Erica back in bed, Michelle went to take her bath. When she got out and went back to her bedroom, she was met by Harrell, her boyfriend at the time, now husband, who was drunk and high on PCP of all things, which is apparently a pretty common theme with Harrell. Harrell tells Michelle that Erica was misbehaving. She wasn't listening to him and kept getting out of bed, which made Harrell completely unreasonably angry. One of the times she got out of bed, Harrell decided that enough was enough. He kicked Erica, the small child, in the head, knocking her unconscious, continued to kick her, and began beating her with the ashtray that was later found near her body. Michelle screamed, picking up her child and running to the bathroom to splash her with cold water and try to get her back up. But Erica's eyes had rolled back and her body was completely limp. When Erica didn't wake up, Michelle carried her back to the bedroom and laid her on the floor. After speaking amongst themselves, they mutually agreed that they should not bring her to the hospital, as they both had outstanding warrants, and they decided that the possibility of being arrested was much worse than the possibility of the young girl passing away. One of the saddest parts about this is that medical experts have said that if Erica had been brought in that night, she would have survived this brutal attack. Instead, Michelle and Harrell left Erica's limp body on their bedroom floor for 2 entire days, expecting her to either eventually wake up or eventually pass away, and it seems they were okay with either of those options. After 2 days of her lying there unconscious, the couple decided that it was time to just dispose of Erica. They put her limp body into a baby stroller, wheeling her into the woods where her body was later found. They stripped Erica naked at some point, though nobody knows quite why, and there have been speculations that she was essayed while unconscious, but nobody actually knows this for certain. After that, Harrell Johnson went up and decapitated Erica's head with a pair of hedge clippers, which is so dark. They did this as an effort to conceal her identity, originally wrapping her head in a black trash bag and disposing of it in a nearby church's trash bin. But soon after this, Michelle became paranoid that the church would find it and recognize Erica's face, so they went back and moved the trash bag with her head into the woods near her body, where this was later found as well. Michelle and Harrell went back home after this whole ordeal, acting completely normal. The next day, Harrell's cousin LaWanda Driscoll, who lived with them at the time, asked where Erica was. Of course, they were prepared and had lies at the ready. They told LaWanda and anybody else that asked them about Erica that she was returned to Betty Brown, her former foster mother, who was granted full custody. People didn't really question it. Moving on, back to 2005. Harrell and Michelle were being charged with the murder of Erica Green. Harrell pled not guilty to first-degree murder. He wasn't completely denying the crime, though. He was actually extremely open about his involvement in the case, but he and his lawyers felt that he should not get a first-degree murder charge because the murder was not premeditated. He didn't go in and decide in advance that he was going to murder her. He says it was a spur-of-the-moment thing, so he shouldn't get first-degree murder. That being said, his cousin, LaWanda Driscoll, that lived with him at the time, completely disagreed. She spoke up in court and provided evidence that Harrell was horribly abusive to Erica leading up to her death. She said that Harrell would beat Erica nearly every day for things like crying, not eating what he gave her, or having accidents. Michelle, on the other hand, agreed to a plea deal for second-degree murder so long as she testified against her husband, which she did. In the end, Harrell Johnson was found guilty of first-degree murder, child endangerment, and child abuse pretty quickly, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Michelle Johnson was found guilty of second-degree murder, endangering the welfare of a child, abandoning a corpse, and tampering with physical evidence, and she was sentenced to 25 years. The case was closed. Erica Green was identified, and her murders were put behind bars. Of course, no punishment would ever be enough for people able to do such a horrible thing to such a sweet, independent, and smart baby girl. But thankfully, what could be done was done. They were off the streets, and justice was served. Well, this is the end of my very first video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye-bye.